Welcome to The Author Show, where we feature new authors and books, from fiction to self-help and everything in between. You'll find it all at theauthorshow.com. That's theauthorshow.com. And now let the show begin.
Hi, this is The Author Show, and I'm your host, Linda Thompson. I love a good thriller, and today we're featuring a really good one in Jan Notzon's book, The Id Paradox. Jan takes us on a thrilling journey, packed full of action and adventure, so let's learn more. Jan, welcome to The Author Show.
Linda, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Jan, will you please give us a quick overview of the Id Paradox?
The Id Paradox is a story of three friends and the trauma they go through in life. And Jake, Artie, and Connors go on a canoe trip. They have a disaster. They're alone and starving, and the tension builds and builds until it explodes. And that unleashes the primal part of Jake, the id. And a lot of the story is about how he tries to accommodate that knowledge that he has the ability to kill.
Where did you get the idea for Jake's story in the Id Paradox?
I was an actor in a former life, and I had the great opportunity to play Richard III at Columbia University in New York City. And if you know anything about Richard III, he is the portrait of evil. He's a consummate sociopath. And I found playing the role really thrilling, liberating. And I wondered about being a method actor. I figured, well, I must have that character in me somewhere. And that's kind of a frightening thing to realize. And that's what Jake goes through.
What does your book title mean in relation to your story?
Well, the id, that primitive part that Jake experiences, realizes in himself, is probably the origin of evil. It's, indulging that rapacious part of us that just wants and has no compunction about getting what it wants. But it's paradoxical in the sense that it seems to be a necessary part of us, an unfortunate but necessary part of us.
Did you have a type of reader in mind while writing the Id Paradox?
Well, anyone who loves adventure and who is interested in learning about or experiencing those issues of the primitive part of ourselves that just lashes out without any compunction.
Jan, you've written 3 other novels. How would you describe your writing style?
I just try to tell a good story. I try to create interesting characters in very extreme situations, and I do a lot of free associating out on my deck and just write whatever comes into my mind and then try to pull it all together into a narrative, a story that people will enjoy.
You have a very interesting resume in that you are an author. You're also a playwright, and as you mentioned, you've worked as an actor. Do you have a preference?
Right now, I find the most fulfilling, and novel writing is what I'm focusing on at the moment.
Have you always dreamed of being a published author?
No, actually, my dreams were being an actor. But as I experienced other people's writing, playwrights writing and doing research and stuff, stories just came to me and wanted to get out.
Does Jake or any of your other characters take on traits of real people, or are they pure fiction?
Oh, they're definitely taken from my experiences and embellished. But yes, they're definitely from people I've known, the core of them, the idea of them.
Will Jake or any of your other characters return to us in a sequel or maybe even a series?
Well, as a matter of fact, my second novel, And Ye Shall Be as Gods, has the same main character, Jake Kazmareck, and then it follows in the Id Paradox.
Are you writing another book now? And if so, will you give us a quick teaser?
Absolutely. I only know the basic rudiments of my father's family's emigration from Poland to the United States in the 19th century. So I am letting my imagination go wild trying to embellish the story.
That's going to be a fun one. So tell me, Jan, your book cover is very interesting. The graphic reminds me of something not quite prehistoric. Who designed this cover, and what does it mean to you?
Well, I got a guy online, I think it was either Indian or Pakistani. He just contacted me and said, I do book covers. As a matter of fact, there is a primitive part. If you look at Jake's in the middle, if you look at his shadow, that is the monster from Forbidden Planet, monster from the id.
Very interesting. So what got you interested in the id itself, and how much research did you have to do to write a novel around the idea?
Oh, I did a great deal of research, and I owe a great deal of thanks to Judith Lewis Herman, who wrote a fantastic book about PTSD and treatment of PTSD. And, I read that. I read Wilson's book, Broken Spirits. I studied very carefully a book called The Fundamentalist Mindset. And, I have studied and read psychology for most of my life, actually.
Is there a moral to the story in the id paradox?
Oh, absolutely. And I don't want to spoon-feed that to the reader. I want the reader to tell me what he got out of the story.
Does Jake in the paradox go from a young man all the way to adulthood, or does it cover just a specific period of time in his life?
A specific period of time from late adolescence to late 20s, probably.
Jan, will you please read a short excerpt from the id paradox for our listeners?
Linda, I am chomping at the bit to do that. Okay. This is on their ill-fated in the Big Bend. We pulled around a sharp bend, and there was the giant roar, drowned out all other sound. Man, that sounds scary. I doubt beneath the clamor. Pull over, Jake, pull over. Artie was finally pulled out of his rapture. Which side? I screamed at the top of my lungs. Any side, just pull over. I judged that the Mexican side was our safest bet into the now raging waters to steer us to that scant piece of sand and rock. Connors, however, had not heard Artie's directive over the roar. What the hell are you doing, Jake? In confusion, he pushed off an exposed rock with his paddle to lead us back toward a mass of boulders and whitewater splashing murderously high. No, Connie! Artie screamed just above the thunder of the waters. But our work against each other sent the canoe widthwise into the first series of rapids. I managed to straighten us just enough to avoid our smashing sideways into a huge, sharp-edged piece of cliff. The current, however, sloshed and teetered, spitting and whirling high above our heads with a deafening roar, spinning us fully around and banging us against the myriad underlying and above-surface rocks. Thoughts were fleeting, helter-skelter, prayers for deliverance and moment-to-moment flashes of groping for anchorage. In the midst of despair, we were providentially whirled back again to be slammed into and crudely lodged between a massive boulder on our right and a mostly submerged piece of water-honed scree on our left. For a considerable time that seemed no more than a moment, the three of us, even Artie, just sat in a state of shock. No word was said. No glance exchanged. We were trembling, hard-breathing statues. After what seemed an eternity, Artie at last came to life. Is everybody all right? He yelled above the blustering howl. As he turned back to me, I exhaled in a monotone. I'm all right. Connie! Connors turned his face, the color of the chalky residue at river's edge. I think I'm ready to go home now.
Oh my gosh, that definitely had me on the edge of my seat. Jan, where can we learn more about you, about your other books, and where can we purchase the id paradox?
Well, you can always go to my website, which is very simply jannotzon.com, all lowercase. And there you will have all of the connections you need to purchase my books, and you can read my blog, and you can read synopses and reviews, whatever you wish to do there.
And Jan, will you spell your name in your website, please?
Absolutely. JanNotzon.com.
We've been talking with Jan Notzon, author of The Id Paradox. Jan, it's been a real pleasure to talk with you. Thank you for sharing Jake's story with us, and I hope you'll come back again when you release your next book.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Linda. It's been an absolute pleasure.
In The Id Paradox, Jake is again confronted with the beast in himself. Will he learn to accommodate it, or will it destroy him? Is it an essential part of us that must be accepted, or must it be fought to the death? If you want the answer to those questions, go to jannotzon.com and order your copy of Jan Books today. Please share this interview with your friends so that they too may become acquainted with our author. And remember that The Author Show may be accessed at any time at theauthorshow.com. Plus, selected interviews can also be found on major podcasting platforms such as Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Play, and many more. Whether you're an author who would like to be featured or a reader in search of a new book, The Author Show is a really great place to start.
Thanks for listening to The Author Show. Find out more about authors and their work at theauthorshow.com. Theauthorshow.com. Tune in next time to another great author on The Author Show.